Most entertainment starts with some half-wit having an idea to make a movie. This time, it was me.
That's not how it's supposed to go.
I told you we needed the tape.
We never used tape before with the right powder.
We always use tape.
Make it work.
My name is Tino Struckmann. You may have seen me on TV shows or movies, or maybe you've seen some of my military historical documentaries, because I actually am a card-carrying military historian. And of course, when it comes to producing some of my own movies, World War II, military history, and the stories of soldiers behind the lines, behind the politics, is one thing I always wanted to tell. And of course, if you have to make a movie, we need gear, tanks and planes, and those, well, luckily, all my friends have bunches of those. So this idea started many years ago when we were finishing up filming a movie in Alabama, and a friend of mine wanted to show me a location.
I think on the opposite side over there, I definitely think we need to have smoke sitting in the columns, wounded soldiers after the bombing.
Well, there's a couple of rooms over there you could turn into a field hospital for the shoot.
Do we have that luxury on Monday? Do we have the time? We only have 10 guys, and we have a lot of shots to shoot.
Well, that's why I was just explaining that you guys have got to come here with a plan. So, I mean, we can't be just sitting around for an hour. Let's go. He's got to say, Effler, get your ass over there.
One of the reasons why we were in Pensacola, where we were looking at this old great sea fort, is it could have doubled for one of the bunkers or locations in France, because we wanted to do something more authentic behind the lines of Normandy. And we tried to do something similar in Red Rose of Normandy, but it never quite worked the way I wanted, because what I needed was authentic locations. See, doing something that doubles for World War II in Normandy, in France, and finding it in America, or California, where I live, is a bit of a trouble. So when we found Bangsbo Fort in Denmark, well...
Alright. First night on the set of shooting Iron Cross in Denmark. This is where I'm going to sleep. If you're going to do it right, you're going to sleep where they slept before waiting for the invasion. So this is my bed in the bunker. This is the fire control bunker that we'll see in the scene that we're shooting tomorrow. And this is the officer's bed, pretending I'm the officer. Hugo, got in here. We got one of our actors, Kim. How you doing?
How are you?
How you joined the 1944 luxurious?
Well, it takes a little getting used to, doesn't it? But no, it's good. It's actually, I can't believe it was comfortable to be a soldier back then. Probably wasn't. I don't see what the big fuss is about.
Actually, what most people, they don't know that we are shooting in Denmark, pretending to be Normandy.
Yeah.
Now, being stubborn as I am, I wanted to do this movie because I wanted to tell the story from the actual locations. And believe it or not, but when you go to Normandy in France, there's very little left of the Atlantic Wall. However, Denmark was, as we know, invaded and occupied by the Germans in 1940. And when it came to the end of the war, no heavy fighting had really taken place here. So, all the bunkers, all the forts of the Atlantic Wall were still intact, and some of it was left in place. That makes it a great place to film war movies, because it's one of the few places that had, in some cases, been restored to look like wartime. And, of course, you're surrounded by ocean as well, so everything is perfect and would double just great for France. It really is an amazing little place that they let us film at.
They built a little house, a World War II house, sitting in here, doing a little walkthrough. Here's the museum director. He just got a promotion. I got it. You got a promotion. Hello. Hey, I haven't seen him today, so this is like first I see him. So this is generally high. And we're setting up in the little house in here where I said I would.
And we are standing in the fire control of the coastal fort at Bangsbo Fort. The fort is 70 bunkers built by the Germans during the war, the German Navy, to control the harbor that we have down here. And the fort is built as a coastal battery, an anti-aircraft battery, a radar station, and 3 command stations. So there was about 350 German soldiers here during the war, in these 70 bunkers.
Look at this. This is where they wrote on the walls, direction and distance to where things were. And you have a complete view over what is now a naval harbor down here. Complete ocean. It's absolutely amazing. When you walk down here, and watching your head, even though mine is pretty damn hard, you come down here to the command and control, where the commanders will stand and look out over. And you have the metal shutters, in case you need to shut up for gunfire. This was put in after the war, of course, because the wind blows. But you look at this is authentic. The way it looked, it is just amazing. And you look at the steel doors, and you walk down into the next room, and what you will find down here is absolutely amazing. They have restored this the way it was, with the writing on the wall taken from different bunkers into the phone control, where you have each phone for each of the large cannons. 10.5 centimeter guns?
Yeah, 15.
15? Big ass guns, great, like big guns. Where the crew slept, and again, this was on one bunker. This was inspired by a training he saw in the bunker in the Normandy. This is as authentic as you are going to get. Denmark was actually known as the whipped cream front. Which is, it's interesting because your character, who by the time you see this may or may not make it past tomorrow, because some people were known to desert the whipped cream front.
Yeah.
And punishing for desertion is you get shot. And I always wondered why, if you're a German soldier stationed in Denmark, you could have been in Russia, you could have been in the Eastern Front, you could have been bombed in Italy. You're in Denmark. Why the hell would you want to desert here? You want to desert somewhere else to go here.
It's not the worst of places, that's for sure.
I know, and the pastries are great, and the girls were nice, and generally people got along.
I don't know how the pastries were back in the 40s, though.
It can't be that much different. I mean, really? I mean, we gotta find some old people and ask. Yeah. Anyway, we're getting up really early so we can bring you a movie. So, good night.
One last look, Trey. Elvin and Trey, come out, one last look. One last look. Wearily.
But it was a back and forth because most of the action, battle, and big cannons and gunfire we shot in America back in our location in Alabama, where the DC-3 stood ready to throw out all our wonderfully well, properly clad paratroops.
Alright, so in the middle of the night, we got woken up by a guest that I want to introduce you to. See the little guy there? Sitting on your back? He's a bat. Well, this is our bat. Shall we name him, or... Alright, so we have a bat. Hey, there you go.
Bye-bye.
I always make fun of how delicate some actors are. I actually like this. This is kind of cool. It's not method acting. It's just nice. It's kind of it. It's kind of it. It's kind of cool.
It's better than living in a hotel. I mean, at least for the method thing.
Hey, who can ever say that they did this in here? Where's my bat? Fleming, where are you? I named him Brian. I've always said, if we're going to make authentic war movies, besides being on a real part of the Western Wall, we should have things in there that you have never seen in any war film ever before. You want to tell me what this is? Because no one's ever seen this before.
This is an air ventilation system. They use it to clean up the air here by turning this crank here.
And they have to, like every 15-20 minutes, they would have to turn it every hour?
Yeah.
And this still works?
It still works.
All right.
It's German engineering.
So Spielberg, you ain't got one of those, do you?
But in all fairness to Steven Spielberg, he probably does. And if he doesn't, he probably could. And at least we have the Tiger Tank from Saving Private Ryan that we used in Red Rose as well. You just have to have that come back in this movie because it's still an awesome instrument.
Nice place. Actually, I love this place. It's booming of history, I'll say.
And they did a great job restoring everything. Yeah. And the wonderful thing about a location like this, when you film in Denmark, it's a government-owned location, it's a museum, they don't actually charge. We actually had to fight to get to clean up.
You know, in the north of Denmark, that's a good sound to my ears.
That's it. That's a good place. It's something we could recommend people come out and shoot here. But I think we're going to do some more movies out here. One of the things I always take serious when directing war movies, that everybody, including crew, cameraman, everybody, is dressed in proper uniforms, so everybody can at any point in time be utilized for the movie. Why are you not drinking beer? You are drinking beer. See, Denmark production. This is why we want to shoot here, because we can drink beer. Right?
Yeah, right. This is a very special Danish beer. And this particular word, rød, I want you to repeat after me. Rød, like rødgrød med fløde. Now, repeat slowly. Rødgrød med fløde. Do it.
And throw them there. Well, like we said, we're going to be 60 miles away. It'd be foolish.
But still, at the fort in Pensacola, we were hammering out a lot of the ideas of what we wanted to do in this movie.
You could spend a week here and you wouldn't go through everything that's here.
Ah. This is perfect.
You see, you could have the Germans running out of there.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm pretty sure it was right here my interest in tunnels began. If you've seen my documentaries, you know what I mean.
Like open up Pandora's box.
God damn.
You see, this stuff is creepy. So.
This is fucking nuts.
Nice and cool, though.
Yeah.
Might be a dead end. Yeah, this is a dead end. Never mind, carry on. But still, we can still use it. Put a little bit of backlight or something, and have the people coming out. You know?
Backlight, you say?
We just have use a generator of the light bulbs. We just need a cheap light bulb. The camera can shoot.
We have a Jenny, don't we? We should be able to have it.
So we can have a couple of light bulbs.
If not, like I said, Steve's wife is coming down.
This reminds me of that night in Hamburg.
But one of the main visions I had behind making this movie was it is basically what soldiering is to most people who have or are serving. It is about friends, units. It's a buddy movie. And real war stories are generally about friends fighting a war and surviving, or losing friends, or coming home. It's not about incorporating the large political picture, because there's plenty of that. We've all seen the American side of World War II, the British, the Russians have their portrayal of World War II. But what I wanted to do was show that between an American unit and a German unit, there's really very few differences when it comes to the battles on the front line. They are generally groups of people, they're friends, they're making friends, they're serving together. Whether they were German or American or British, they all found themselves in a war that most of them really didn't want to be in or go to, because nobody really wants to go to war. And this is where they had to find themselves and survive. And even on the Russian side. And that's one of the things I wanted to portray with this movie, that despite all the differences and the different reasons why these guys found themselves on the battlefield, they were still all pretty much the same. They're acting on the same motivations, and they all wanted to just basically go home.
Guess that's all we can do.
Besides that, what I really wanted to do is insert throughout the entire movie real stories, real events that took place throughout the war for different people and different fronts, but that really happened, such as the Polish that were serving on the Atlantic Wall with the Germans. They couldn't communicate, have strange friends, and of course, people that had to go to the bathroom. When was the last time you saw that in a war movie? And it would be very hard to make a complete World War II film without trying to incorporate the biggest battles of the war on the Eastern Front, where 80% of the German army was occupied at any given moment. It makes one imagine what the war would have looked like had the Russians been knocked out of the war early or not have happened, because they really did take their toll. And I think that's an important recognition, and it was the biggest, most bloodiest battles of the war started on the Eastern Front. And I wanted to go back to that and start with my character from there.
Boy, this is the coolest thing I've done. You know, we like to shoot at museums all around the world. Hey, look at this. You know, big things happening here. Here's the door over here. Huge workshop. This is the Rail Museum in Aalborg. Look at this. This is huge. This is amazing. This building was built in 1901, the original one, with the train repair shop. They're pulling out some really, really cool stuff for me. Just so I can shoot my character's entry in Paris, and maybe you've seen this by the time it comes out. Oh hell, you see this here? You see this? It's gonna be in the movie. It's gonna be moved on. This is a big thing. This is cool. This is super cool. It's almost as cool as Harley cool. I am so excited. And I never played with trains as a kid, but I'm gonna play with trains today. And you know what? It's my birthday, so I fucking earned it. What are you doing?
I'm turning our manual turntable, which is all we got. So
Original
1902.
Outstanding.
So we've got a block down there.
Right.
Fix that.
And you're wondering why I'm here making an entrance. I've always said when we're gonna film these movies, we're gonna do it right. Gonna do it with originals, none of this CGI crap. Gonna have real stuff in real locations. And this is a real big thing. This is amazing. There's a 100-year-old train rolling onto a 100-year-old turntable. Look at this. This is my Normandy train. At least one of them. You don't think they're just gonna pull out one, they're gonna pull out two for me. You gotta love these guys. We gotta come back here and we're gonna make some movies. I'm telling you. Back in the day when things actually worked and ran on time. Beautiful surroundings. Something that we really can't replicate in America when we do period pieces of World War II films. Because on the first war film I did, I spent a long time trying to find a simple thing as a European looking barn in America. We build barns differently than they do in Europe, although America was, well, funded by European settlers for the most part. Architecture makes a big difference in movies. It's also like that we'll have to get away from California because palm trees really didn't figure big in World War II Europe. So now we're packing up. We're done shooting at the museum here at Vangsbo. Awesome place, awesome people. We will do more movies here. Now we're going up topside to the bunkers. The difference between being in a soundstage where you're comfortable, you're warm, you have your craft service sitting right there, there's a little van to drive you wherever you need to go. When you get out on actual locations, you have to walk up and down the hills. Ain't no one to carry you. Try to hire a Sherpa, not gonna happen. So we get a real wartime experience, which is good. It's muddy, it's wet. Right now it's cold, which of course it shouldn't be because we are doubling for July France. So if we look like we're wet and cold, it's just I don't know what the hell it is. You have to think about it. There was not even a restroom inside the bunkers. They have to go in the middle of the night, in the middle of nowhere. So it's a very serious, solemn place where we take our job as film historians very serious doing films like this. And, you know, of course it's a little weird portraying a side of the war that stood for what it did. And, you know, we try to project what it was and what it looked like, what it was, what the common soldier really went through. Hey, what are you doing back there? Hey, what's going on here?
So what's going on?
Can you spare that at least?
Anything for you, Top. Alright, so what's the deal?
Now you may ask yourself, I know you are, no, not you, the guy next to you, asking yourself, why did I drive clear across Europe to get to this particular bridge when I actually have footage of a remarkably similar bridge built in the United States where we had a nice bridge battle going on that for some reason can't really use. So why am I here? This bridge actually had a function during World War II. This was a very heavily defended by the German forces with pillboxes, flak bunkers on both sides of this bridge. One of the few bridges guarding a possible Allied land assault on the other side to cross into mainland Denmark. This was heavily defended. It's been here for a long time. That's a beautiful bridge. Makes a good backdrop for a nice bridge battle that you'll see in the movie if you haven't seen it already. And remember, if you're doing a World War II movie, doing a period piece, if you can go to where things actually happened, you can tell cool stories like this. Alright, I'm here at the big bunker at the bridge at Agasson. What makes this interesting is that it was a flak bunker where the Germans put it up because there's a bridge behind me, and on the other side of this bridge there's another bunker. However, they built it this high because the water, as you can see down there, sometimes rises quite high. And the bunker is in fact fairly full of water, but you can still go in there, still open. What the Germans did that was interesting and particularly different about this bunker is they covered it up with brick, regular red brick, like you see down here. They're expecting the British to land on northern Jutland, so they wanted the Germans to cover up all the bridges on the way. This is one of the crossings, there's a few more up here. This was built here to secure the crossing on one hand, also shoot down Allied aircraft. It was disguised as a building, was making it really interesting and rather different. You don't see much of that except some of the red brick masonry.
Yeah!
One of the things when I produce or direct war movies is I always tell our camera guys to keep everything rolling, pointed at anything that moves. And that left us with so many outtakes and not used footage from previous movies and things such as this, where I love the fact that I am just a man surrounded by hot dogs, and some of them have tanks and some of them have planes, and they're clearly utterly insane. But this you won't see on a Hollywood set, and yet we did it.
Even with insurance, I think with insurance you can do whatever you want, right?
Yeah.
Federal property. I mean, the thing is, they probably
call up Michael Bay can do it. We can do it. I'm just joking. Michael Bay has better connections than we do.
You know, he's got more money than I do.
Which brings.
Yeah. I was thinking.
But this is the cleanest part, and it looks more modern than that 3,000-year-old catacombs.
There's a lot of ruins here. There's a lot for the battle, for the bombing. If we can use the air cannon and some smoke, we could simulate gunshots if they won't let us. That's fine. And there's so many little holes and crannies and knickknacks that I think we should equip the Germans fully on the first half of the day. Go to every location, have Klaus talk to everybody everywhere. Stick them in there, cram them, go from location to location to location. And then here we do the battle for a few hours of them shooting and fighting around here, maybe a couple American uniforms. And then we do a field hospital, improvised field hospital, and wounded people around in the ruins as well. If we divide the day up 3 ways that way, but we start with, because then we start with clean Germans, we do fighting Germans, and then we do wounded Germans, and then we do Americans advancing through as well.
But do you want to stay up at the barn on Sunday night and not get down there till 8, or do you want to stay in Gulf Breeze? And
I think we should be here as soon as the sun rises.
Yeah,
because we only have 1 day here. We need to make everything of this day down here.
I mean, you've got those other 3 locations, you know.
Yeah.
So, but we have to probably utilize this one, and that turn on top of the tower of that one is probably a nice place to put if we can get someone out there.
Well, there's very little traffic out there. This place kind of draws everybody to walk up there.
See, the good thing about this here is that we have 2 cameras.
Yeah.
We can actually leapfrog locations here, as long as we all know what we're doing, and we can divide up the reenactors in.
Well, that's
because in one shot, there's going to be a few shots where we're going to have everybody there, but for the most part, we're going to have 3-4 people in each shot.
Right, you can be
so we can divide.
We
can divide up in 2 units. We probably should do that here.
That would be my plan.
Is there a map here?
Yes.
We should look at the map. I mean, like if we could do.
And this is one of the things that really happened when we were filming, because obviously these landing crafts are 78 years old, and the door would get stuck. And one can imagine this might have happened on D-Day in the actual locations where they had to sit under fire and work the ramp down. Fortunately, it didn't make it in the movie. However, this one did, because how can you live without that? Or, well, you know, this.
Last day filming here in Denmark, and everybody's starting to wrap up and clear up everything. And it's been an amazing experience to film out here. It's so much different than sitting in a film set or what have you. This is actually in the real historic location. One we will definitely come back to. That guy's wearing my shirt, and there's some blankets in there, doesn't belong to me. And
Seriously, it's wet, it's getting cold, it's rainy. It's good. Very much uphill. See the guys? It's a long trek. One thing I regret is I don't get to smoke my cigar. At the end of every shoot, you have a cigar. Real men smoke cigars. We get together once a week, smoke cigars, talk about history, like guys do. I'm not going to be able to sit out here and smoke a cigar because everybody want to get home to a hot bath. Next time. Now, the one thing that you never see when you see the making of movies, and the thing that people don't really think about, is when you're done filming, then you have to do just like in the military. Remember I told you that military deployment and filmmaking is having a lot of parallels? Well, when you're done filming, just like when you're done fighting, shooting, or shitting, you gotta wrap up your equipment, carry everything back in place, go back to the studio, clean all the gear, dump all the footage, so you can get onto the editor. And that's what we're doing now. Greeting one of my friends from Danish local television. Without him, we wouldn't have been filming half as quickly. And that's the Goodwill in Denmark, and that's why we're coming back. Now, we gotta work, and you go have beers. Because it's interesting because it was a previous war movie that we made called Red Rose of Normandy, which was basically a love story behind the lines with the similar character. For some reason, I keep playing Klaus Müller for a lot of different reasons. I think he's the reluctant, honorable soldier who hates war but loves his men. And here he's finds the love of his life in Normandy before the bombing. But as we were working on Red Rose, two parallel stories developed, and one of them was the buddy movie that really is Iron Cross. But it was two conflicting stories. They couldn't have been the same movie, couldn't have been the same story. So we had to make two movies to tell completely different sides and real events from the war. And I think we kind of pulled that off really successfully. And I will say that Iron Cross is a movie that I'm really happy that I could get to take my time and produce. Also, we made it on practically no budget, on 7-8 different cameras, which made editing a nightmare. But I think having been able to independently take the time to travel around the world and film segments at a time, I'd be able to get everything in this movie that I wanted, every bit of hardware. You will see things in this movie that you will never see in any other films. That I have historical interested that have written me after seeing it, asking what this or that is because they simply haven't seen it before. The saddest thing for me about making this movie is I spent so much time nickel and diming my way through the production that my mom passed before it ever got to finish, so she never got to see it. And so did our great friend David Effler. He also didn't make it, passed away. And I think that is the biggest regret of not having had enough of a budget to speed this thing through and actually show those around us that weren't well. But that's what happens sometimes, and we really wanted to take our time and do the details, all the little details, and obviously we had a mandatory motorcycle escape because I don't know what my character would be without a heroic motorcycle escape. But this is a film that would never have been done if it hadn't been for all the help and support of all the various military historical societies, reenactors, all my friends with tanks and guns. We would never have been able to make this movie unless we had an enormous budget, which would be nice because I generally say that we made this film on the same budget as the catering budget for one day of any given TV series. And you can only, you can shoot for a while on hot dogs and cold coffee, but I think we did a pretty good job, and I hope you guys will enjoy it. And I'm looking forward to seeing how many of the little details you guys can pick out from the movie that you haven't seen before or just happen to notice. The little gestures, and a little bit like Brothers War, there was a lot of those in there as well.